Hello, class. My name is Travis Snap. I'm going to be talking about a flight that has been proposed today from Golf Sierra Oscar to Lima Yankee Hotel. Just a short overview. We're going to be making this flight. It's about 82 nautical miles. The airplane we're flying is pictured on the top right, Piper Cherokee PA-28. It's going to be a VFR day flight. I'll be flying solo. Me and another pilot are going to fly down there. He'll drop me off, and I'll fly this aircraft back. This aircraft is a return to service aircraft, so we sent it down to this airport to get a engine overhaul and new avionics added to it as well. And this is in nexus to a dispatch job that I have at my local flight school, where I'm currently flying, trying to earn my CFI certificate. All right, so here's a short overview of our flight. There's no complicated airspace we're flying through. It's non-mountainous terrain. It's a direct flight. No reason why we can't do direct. And then flying out there at 5,500 would keep us clear of all of our sector altitudes, and gives us plenty of room to make an emergency or precautionary landing if we need to. And then there are a few alternates available, at least 4 on the route. You can see those depicted in magenta, just in between, and they can all sustain a landing distance for a PA-28. Additionally, there are major roads if we need to make a precautionary landing and we're not in glide range of one of these airports. All right, so as a pilot, I'm going to go through my I am safe checklist. Considering my illness, medication state, what if I've been sick, if I'm on any medications for any illnesses, and then what those things are going to do, and if they're legal to fly with. Stress, this might be a big one because I feel like I have to make this flight because it's part of my job. The flight school where I'm trying to get a job, presumably, is telling me to do this. So even if I'm not comfortable flying in this aircraft with updated avionics and an recently overhauled engine, I might be stressed out by that. That might be a new experience for me. Alcohol, obviously I'm going to follow the alcohol regulations, 8 hours or 0.04%, or under the effects of alcohol. Fatigue, make sure I get a good night's sleep the night prior, because I might be experiencing a stressful event the next day. And then emotions and eating, just make sure that I'm in a good emotional state and that I've eaten recently, and that I bring some extra food, just in case I get delayed at this airport for the pickup. All right, so talking about the aircraft now. So obviously I'm going to run through my Aero PC checklist, making sure my registration and airworthiness certificate are up to date, that the owner's manual is still in the airplane. And then important to this flight is the weight and balance. So I need to make sure that because new equipment was added, that this weight and balance is an updated weight and balance now that it has new avionics in it, or if the new engine or engine overhaul has changed any of the weight and balance information, that all is updated and signed off by an A&P. As well as supplements for the new avionics. Whenever you receive new avionics in the airplane, just make sure they have the supplements in there as well. And then checking ADs for the new equipment that was added to the airplane, and just making sure that we're in compliance with everything is going to be important for me as the PIC. As far as the environment goes, I'm going to use my pre-flight actions of NW Craft, so checking my NOTAMs, weather, known traffic delays, which isn't going to be an issue between these two airports, runway length, fuel required, and takeoff and landing distances. Really not concerned about any of these. NOTAMs, I just need to check my departure and arrival airport, and then those ones in between, just in case I have to make a precautionary landing if my temperature or pressure is going out. Weather, I'm not super concerned about weather. The TAF and the METARs both look really good. It's going to be a VFR day flight, so I'm not super concerned about the weather. Runway traffic delays is not going to be an issue. Both airports have runway lengths as well as alternates that will support my aircraft. I'm going to have plenty of fuel for a less than 70 nautical mile flight, and the takeoff and landing distances all make sense. External pressures. So what I'm going to focus on this one is my hazardous thoughts I might be having. So macho. I'm working at this school. I want to impress. My chief pilot at my school has given me this task. And if I can't handle this, and if I'm not familiar with the airplane or the equipment, or I'm not comfortable flying an airplane that's just had an engine overhaul, I should tell him no, and I shouldn't be macho and take any chances on this flight that I'm not comfortable with. Um, Resignation. So I was given this task and just blindly accepting it and feeling like I can't influence the situation. Um, I might be resigned to the fact that I have to do this, and even if I'm uncomfortable flying an airplane that's been recently updated, um, I can make a difference. One thing that I think I could do is suggest that an A&P comes with me to receive the airplane, just to check it out on our side and not just take the company who did the additions to the airplane's word for it. And then lastly, I just want to talk about threat and air management and some things I'm going to be thinking about, some threats I have, and then ways to manage those threats. So the new engine installed, engine issues typically happen right after a new installation. So I think bringing in A&P is a good idea to suggest to the flight school and really advocate for myself to have an A&P with me on this trip. And if it's possible, I have an A&P who's a pilot to fly me down there, knock out two birds with one stone. And then also just planning precautionary landing sites in case that engine does fail or has a partial failure. There is a new avionics suite in this aircraft. I don't know what it is. However, if I was flying this airplane, I would make sure I was familiar with that avionics suite. With a simulator, I'd punch it into my X-plane and get some hours flying on that equipment. Make sure I know how the autopilot works. If they install an autopilot, make sure I know how the screens work, the PFD, MFD, all of those things. And then the legal documentation of the new equipment. Making sure I have all the supplements, making sure the weight and balance makes sense. Again, I think this is a great place for an A&P to come in and help me receive this airplane. And then if it is just me and the school doesn't want me to take an A&P, just becoming ultra familiar and talking to the chief pilot about the laws and regulations that govern the installation of new equipment and the new weight and balance and supplements I need to have on board. And then lastly, solo pilot, I just need to make sure that I'm proficient because there's nobody else to lean on if it's just me flying this airplane. So all in all, I do think this will be a safe flight. This is a mission that I would accept as a commercial pilot. However, there are some threats, but if you think ahead and we're able to manage some of those threats, I think we will be a safe flight. And for me, my biggest action on this flight would be advocating for an A&P to come with me and preferably fly back the airplane with me so he can check the engine gauges, especially if they have advanced engine monitoring, so he can watch the new engine perform on its first flight. So thank you for listening to my presentation. I'm looking forward to watching y'all's as well.